Hi, and welcome back to English Lessons with Stephanie. This is Speaking Lesson 10. We'll start today's lesson by setting goals, as usual. We'll work on our grammar of asking questions. Then we'll work on pronouncing the letter T. And finally, we'll end with some conversation topics. Remember these speaking tips on the right. It's important to relax. We speak so much better when we're relaxed. So get a drink, pretend you're talking on the phone, listen to some music, whatever it takes to help you relax. Next, speak as loudly as you would normally. This will help us to create good habits. And finally, just remember it's okay to make mistakes. We're practicing, and with practice, we will get better. So think about what goals you want to focus on today. What do you hope to improve? Pronunciation, fluency, accuracy, variety, or mastery? Choosing one or two of these will help us to improve faster. So in this week's grammar lesson, we learned how to ask questions. Asking questions is especially important for beginning English learners. When you're in a conversation with someone new and you don't feel comfortable talking, it's sometimes easier to ask questions and then listen. Let the other person do the talking. So in this exercise, imagine you have just moved to a new city. Your neighbor invites you out for a cup of coffee. What questions could you ask your neighbor? Now remember the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, as well as how. Try to think of as many questions as you can to ask your new neighbor about him or herself or about the new city that you live in. So pause the video, create a list of questions, and then unpause the video to see some possible questions. Here are some questions you could have asked. Now, for additional speaking practice, imagine someone is asking you these questions. How would you respond? Next, imagine you're on a first date. What kinds of questions could you ask your date to get to know them better? Again, remember the 5 W's and how, and let's talk. Create a list of questions that you could ask someone on a first date. So here are some questions you could have asked. And remember, if you want some additional speaking practice, imagine someone is asking you these questions and think of how you would answer. Next, we're going to talk about how to pronounce the letter T. As you can see on the slide, T has many different pronunciations. At the top, we have some of the common sounds that T makes. The first, in blue, is the unvoiced T sound. T, 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 t. For example, in to, or teacher. Now remember, the unvoiced sound is when you put your fingers on your throat and you don't feel buzzing. So when you say t, 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 you can put your fingers on your throat and you shouldn't feel a buzzing sound. In the next column over, we have a soft unvoiced sound. So here, there's still no buzzing of the throat, but we don't make that hard t-t-t-t. So like boat, repeat, foot, height, meet. The T sound at the end isn't as hard. We don't hear the t-t-t. And finally, in the last column in orange, we have the voiced sound, where T sounds more like D. And remember the voice sound, you can put your fingers in your throat and you will feel the buzzing noise. So when you say D, 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 your fingers should feel some movement. And this is the T sound that we make in native or scatter. In the gray box, there are some other T sounds that you'll hear. So for example, in the purple, when we have T-I-O-N, it makes the sh sound. In the maroon color here, we have the three, or bath, the unvoiced TH sound. Down below in pink, we have the voiced TH sound like this or bathe. T can also make the ch unvoiced sound like in tree or nature. And T can also make the j sound, which is voiced, like in question or suggestion. But we're going to just concentrate on the top 3 sounds, the unvoiced and voiced t, d sounds. T, t and d sounds. When do we make the different T sounds? So these are some general rules. If we have the T at the beginning of a word, it makes the hard t unvoiced T sound, like to, and teacher. When we have the letter T at the end of a word after a consonant, and remember consonants are not vowels, so like past, most, text, then we'll make the hard unvoiced T sound. or when we have the T at the beginning of a stressed syllable. So like in this word, imitation, the accent is on the syllable that starts with T. So we'll say imitation. And at the bottom, we see when we make the soft unvoiced sound, that's when we have T at the end of a word after a vowel sound. So we don't say boat. Usually we say boat. And we don't say repeat. We say repeat, foot, height, meet. So it's like you almost start to say the T, but you stop, meet. And in the next column, we see when does T make the voiced sound, duh? That's when we have T in the middle of a word at the beginning of unstressed syllables. So these two examples, native and scatter, we have the stress on the first syllable, but T is at the beginning of the unstressed syllable. So that's when it becomes the voiced sound, native, scatter. It's more like the D sound. So let's practice. How would you pronounce these words? And to help you, I've underlined the stressed syllables in the longer words so you can see. So pause the video and try to work out how you would pronounce these different T sounds. And then unpause the video to see. So we would say potato. We've got two different T sounds. T to start the stressed syllable, potato, to make the voice sound, potato. Next we have tomato. Then test, hit, metal, right, and butter. There are exceptions to these rules, but in general, this is how we can pronounce the different T sounds. Okay? Next, let's do some conversation. Let's talk about the word frustration. Frustration is the feeling of anger when something doesn't work correctly, when you can't get something that you want. So here's our word family, and we're going to practice using all of these in conversation. This emotion is very common in conversations because we talk about our problems and what's causing us difficulties. So in our first question, we have an example of frustrate used as a verb. Who or what frustrates you? To answer this question, you would use a noun or an ing verb, and then frustrates me. So for example, you could say English frustrates me, or studying English frustrates me. If you want to use a plural noun like people, you would have to use the plural verb, frustrate, without the S. Our next question uses frustration as a noun. What causes you frustration? And again, you would start out with a noun or an ing verb, causes me frustration. So the same thing, you would say English or studying English causes me frustration. The third question uses frustrating as the causal adjective. What causes your frustration? What do you find frustrating? And you would say, I find, again, a noun or an ing verb, frustrating. So I find English frustrating, or I find studying English frustrating. And finally, we have the emotion word, frustrated. When do you feel frustrated? Or when are you frustrated? And you can say, I feel frustrated when, and then use the present tense structure. So for example, I feel frustrated when I can't remember something I just learned. Or I feel frustrated when I don't know what to do. The verb, adjectives, and adverb, the syllable stress is on the first syllable. Frustrate, frustrating, frustrated, and frustratingly. Another thing to notice is that the syllable stress changes in the word family. In the noun, we say frustration, with the syllable stress on the second syllable. With the verb, adjectives, and adverb, the syllable stress is on the first syllable. Frustrate, frustrating, frustrated, and frustratingly. Okay, so let's pause the video and answer these questions using all the different forms of the word frustration. Next, we have the word embarrassment, another common emotional word in conversations. Remember that embarrassment is a feeling of foolishness or stupidity when we think we've made a mistake. Embarrassment is easier to pronounce because the syllable stress is on the same syllable in all the words. That's the second syllable. Embarrassment, embarrass, embarrassing, embarrassed, and embarrassingly. So again, let's answer all these questions so we can practice using the different word forms. So let's pause the video and answer these questions using all the different word forms for embarrassment. So in class 10, we've been talking about language learning. So let's answer these questions. How do you learn a language? And what is good and bad about how you're learning? To answer the first question, you would use by plus an ing verb. I learn a language by watching movies. And then tell us what's good and bad about this. You can say what's good is that plus a subject and a verb. So what's good is that I learn quickly, or what's bad is that I have no one to talk to. So let's talk. Pause the video and answer these questions. And to end today, we're going to use the word forget. Remember that forget is when you can't remember something. You lose something from your mind. To pronounce the word forgetting, we always put the accent on the second syllable. Forgetfulness, forget, forgettable, forgetful, forgettably. So the first question is there something you often forget? And you can say you forget a noun. That means you forget something, like I forget my friend's birthday, or I forget my phone at home. Or you can forget to do something, so you use to plus a verb. For example, I often forget to call my friend on her birthday. Secondly, I have a quotation. My mother used to say, you only forget things that aren't important to you. And she would say this to me because sometimes I would forget to do something she asked me to do, and she would say that. Do you agree or disagree with this statement, and why? So let's talk, pause the video, and answer these questions using the words for forget. So that's the end of speaking lesson 10. Great work. I know that speaking to a video is kind of strange, but this is a great way to practice pronunciation and conversation. Just keep practicing. So talk to yourself, talk to your friends, talk to your pets. Just keep talking. If you're enjoying these classes, please remember to like, comment, ask questions, and subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.